Close your eyes and take a deep breath. The day is done and the world can wait. Welcome to Z in History. Think about what happens when it gets cold outside today. You reach into your closet, grab a jacket, pull it on and zip it up. You shove your hands in your pockets and walk out the door. It takes zero effort. We just assume that if it's freezing, we wear clothes, but getting to that point, getting to a reality where a human being could walk into a snowstorm and still use both of their hands took hundreds of thousands of years. It was a miserable, freezing process of trial and error. Tonight, we're going to look at three different guys in three completely different eras of human history. None of them are famous inventors. They were just cold, exhausted people trying to figure out how to stop the weather from making them miserable. We are going to follow them as they take the physical steps that eventually led to the jacket hanging in your closet. Chapter 1, Trapped by the Weather. We are jumping way back. 300,000 years ago. We are in the middle of an ancient forest and it has been raining for 4 days straight. Not a light drizzle. A heavy, relentless downpour that turns the ground into a thick, slippery soup of mud and broken branches. We find a guy named Tal. Tal and a small group of his people are huddled underneath the thick, twisting roots of a massive tree, just trying to stay out of the mud. Tal is shivering so hard his jaw physically aches. In this era, humans didn't build houses or tents. They were completely nomadic. And most importantly, they didn't wear clothes. Human skin is incredible at keeping us cool when we run and hunt, but it is absolutely terrible at keeping us warm when we are soaking wet. Tal and his group are sitting in the mud, completely bare, just taking the brunt of the temperature. Tal is facing a serious, immediate problem. The group is starving. They haven't eaten a real meal in days. In the ancient forest, food doesn't magically come to you. You have to actively walk miles every single day to forage for wild fruit, dig up edible roots, or scavenge what you can find. But nobody can leave the shelter of the tree root. If you walk out into a freezing rainstorm with bare skin, the water immediately pulls the heat straight out of your core. It's not just uncomfortable. It's physically dangerous. Your muscles lock up, your energy drains, and you quickly reach a point where you can't walk back. The weather has completely trapped them. They are prisoners of the rain. Tal sits there, hungry and intensely frustrated, watching the rain pour off the edge of the tree root in sheets. He knows he can't just sit there and starve to death waiting for the sky to clear. Someone has to go out and find food, but he also knows the storm will cut right through him the second he steps out. He needs a barrier. He looks at a patch of large, waxy green broad leaves growing near the edge of their makeshift shelter. He watches the heavy raindrops hit the slick surface of the leaves and roll right off. The leaf doesn't absorb the water at all. It just acts like a solid shield. A very simple, incredibly physical idea clicks in his head. If the rain rolls off the leaf, and the leaf is big enough to cover his back, maybe he can just take the leaf with him. Chapter 2, Roofing himself with leaves. Tal stands up. He doesn't wait for the rain to stop. He steps out from under the giant tree root, and the freezing rain hits him instantly. He shivers violently as the cold water runs down his back, but he forces himself to walk straight over to the patch of massive broadleaves. He grabs the thick stem of the largest leaf he can find and snaps it off. He holds it directly over his head like an umbrella. Instantly, the heavy rain stops hitting his face. It's a tiny victory, but he quickly realizes it's a terrible long-term solution. He can't effectively forage for food while holding a leaf over his head with one hand. He needs both hands to dig through the mud for roots, to break branches, to carry whatever he finds back to the group. He needs the leaf to just stay on his body by itself. He snaps off another leaf, then another, working quickly in the freezing rain. He gathers a huge pile of them and carries them back under the dry root. His group watches him, totally confused as to why he is wasting energy hoarding wet plants. Tal sits down in the mud and begins to actively build. He places the first leaf flat against his chest. He takes the second leaf and places it right below the first, making sure the top of the second leaf tucks neatly under the bottom of the first leaf. He is roofing himself exactly the way we overlap shingles on a modern house, so water rolls down from one to the next without ever touching what's underneath. But leaves don't just stick to wet skin. As soon as he lets go of them to grab another, they slide right off his chest and fall into the mud. He needs a way to tie them down. Tal grabs a sharp, chipped riverstone he keeps near his sleeping spot. He walks back out into the rain and finds a tall cedar tree. He uses the sharp rock to aggressively score the wet bark, digs his fingers into the cut, and pulls down hard. He strips away long, flexible pieces of the inner bark. It's tough, fibrous, and won't snap easily. He takes these bark strips back to his pile of leaves and uses them like ropes. He wraps the cedar strips tightly around his chest and his waist, physically binding the overlapped leaves securely against his skin. It's heavy, it's messy, it restricts his movement a bit, and it looks completely ridiculous. But he ties the final knot and stands up. The leaves stay on. Chapter 3, Beating the Storm. Tal stands up under the tree root. He looks like a walking pile of forest debris wrapped in wet green leaves and bound in strips of rough bark. He takes a deep breath, steps away from the shelter, and walks straight out into the heavy downpour. He stands there in the middle of the storm, bracing himself for the cold. But he isn't shivering anymore. The cold rain hits the waxy leaves and just sheets off his body, running down the overlapping layers and dripping onto the ground. The water never touches his chest or his back. It isn't pulling the heat out of his core anymore. For the very first time in his life, and possibly the first time in human history, the weather is happening around him, not to him. He has successfully created a physical barrier between his own body heat and the hostile environment. It's a massive, life-changing moment of active problem-solving, while everyone else is trapped under the tree, paralyzed by the cold and waiting to starve. Tal can walk freely through the storm. He is immune to the rain. He spends the next hour actively foraging through the wet forest. He uses both of his free hands to dig up nutrient-rich tubers, smash open fallen nuts, and gather wild fruit. The bark strips hold the leaves firmly in place while he works. He walks back to the tree root carrying a massive haul of food. He drops it in the mud right in front of his starving group. They eat greedily, staring at Tal and his weird, leafy armor in total shock. He didn't just solve his own immediate problem. He actively beat the weather, manipulated his environment, and kept them all alive. He proved that human beings don't have to just accept the weather. They can fight it. Chapter 4, the leaves turn to dust. Tal feels like a genius. He has outsmarted the ancient forest, but the superpower he just invented has a massive, fatal flaw. He is about to learn a hard lesson about material science. The next day, the storm finally clears. The heavy clouds break, and the hot sun beats down on the wet forest. Tal is walking proudly through the trees, still wearing his leafy armor, leading the group to a new foraging spot. But as the sun hits him directly, the giant, waxy leaves start to rapidly dry out. They lose their bright green color, turning a dull, sickly yellow, and then a dead brown dot. The moisture evaporates completely from the plant tissue. The leaves stop being flexible shields and become incredibly brittle, exactly like thin, dry paper. As Tal walks, the natural, unavoidable movement of his torso bends and flexes the dry leaves against the tight bark ropes. He stops walking. He looks down at his chest just as the giant leaf covering his stomach completely cracks in half with a loud crunch. He takes another step forward, twisting his waist, and the brittle leaf simply shatters into 100 pieces of dry dust. Falling uselessly into the dirt, the long strips of cedar bark, which were so strong and flexible when they were wet, have also dried out in the hot sun. They turn stiff and woody. When Tal bends over to pick up a stick, the sudden expansion of his back snaps the dry bark rope in half with a loud, sharp pop dot within an hour. His incredible invention literally falls apart and blows away in the wind. Using fresh plants was a great idea for a quick, desperate fix during a rainstorm, but it wasn't a permanent solution for survival. Humanity needed something much tougher, something that wouldn't simply shatter into dust the moment the weather changed. They needed a material that was designed to bend. Chapter 5: The Stiff Blanket. We jump forward in time. A massive leap. 200,000 years pass. The world has changed dramatically. We are no longer in a dense, rainy forest. We are standing on a high, rocky, freezing plain. There are almost no trees here, just endless miles of short, tough grass and jagged grey rocks. And it is violently cold. A sharp, biting wind blows constantly across the open ground, carrying a chill that cuts straight to the bone. We find a guy named Kale. He is a hunter. And unlike Tal in the ancient forest, Kale is not naked. He and his people have figured out the next major, active step in human survival. They have completely abandoned fragile, temporary leaves and moved on to something much more durable. Kale is wearing an animal hide. He actively hunted a large grazing animal, brought it down, and carefully skinned it. He spent days engaged in exhausting physical labor, using a sharp stone scraper to remove every bit of fat and tissue from the inside of the skin so it wouldn't rot. He is currently wrapped in this thick, heavy pelt. He specifically wears the fur facing inward, directly against his bare skin to trap his body heat, while the tough, leathery skin faces outward to block the biting wind. He has effectively stolen the animal's evolutionary armor and made it his own. It is heavy, it smells strongly of earth and smoke, and the raw leather is quite stiff, but it is an absolute game changer for his survival on the freezing plains. Chapter 6: Sleeping on the Frost. This rawhide completely changes how Kale interacts with the world. It is the greatest, most reliable tool he owns. When the sun goes down on the open plain, the temperature instantly drops below freezing. A thick layer of white frost covers the jagged rocks and the short grass. 200,000 years ago, before the hide was adopted, Cale would have been forced to find a deep cave, or he would have had to spend the entire night constantly feeding a massive fire just to keep from freezing to death in his sleep. Now, he has a portable shelter. He can simply lie down right on the frozen, frost-covered ground. He pulls the thick fur tightly around his shoulders, tucks his knees into his chest, and pulls the heavy hide over his head. The stiff leather stops the freezing wind dead in its tracks. The fur traps his body heat perfectly in a small, tight bubble. He can sleep safely and deeply, completely exposed on the open plain. And unlike Tull's leaves, the animal hide doesn't shatter in the sun. It doesn't dissolve in the rain. It is incredibly tough, and it lasts for months of hard daily use. Because he carries his warmth with him, he isn't tethered to a cave. He can actively track herds for days, sleeping wherever he falls, dramatically expanding his hunting territory and his chances of survival. Chapter 7, The One-Armed Problem. But there is a huge, frustrating catch to this incredible invention, and it is driving Cale absolutely crazy on a daily basis. He didn't invent a jacket. He just invented a blanket. He has this massive, heavy animal hide draped over his shoulders, but it has no structure. There are no sleeves. There are no buttons. There is no zipper. To keep the heavy pelt from simply sliding off his shoulders and falling into the dirt, Cale has to physically hold it closed at his chest with one hand. Always imagine trying to live your entire life, hunting, gathering, and surviving, with only one hand free. Every single time Cale walks, he has to keep his fists clenched tightly around the edges of the hide. When he tries to run after an animal, the hide flaps wildly open, letting the freezing wind hit his bare chest, forcing him to grip it even tighter and slowing him down. He sees a heavy rock he needs to move to build a fire pit. He reaches down with his free hand to lift it, but it's too heavy. He needs both hands. But the exact moment he lets go of the hide to grab the rock with both hands, the freezing wind immediately catches the pelt and blows it right off his shoulders. He instantly starts freezing. He has to drop the rock, scramble to grab the heavy hide, and pull it back around himself, shivering and frustrated. He is warm, but he is practically disabled by his own blanket. He is constantly fighting the wind, constantly adjusting the heavy hide, constantly forced to choose between staying warm and using his hands. He actively realizes he needs a way to make the blanket stay on his body permanently, without him holding it, so he can finally get his hands back. Chapter 8, The Freezing Cave. We jump forward in time, one last time. It is 40,000 years ago. We have reached the absolute peak of the last ice age. The world is buried in snow, ice, and freezing fog. We are inside a deep limestone cave. The walls are covered in thick black soot from generations of campfires. Outside the mouth of the cave, a massive blizzard is raging. The wind is howling with physical force, driving horizontal snow across the frozen, dead tundra. If you step outside right now without protection, you will die in minutes. We find a guy named Elion. He is sitting near the back of the cave, as close to the fire pit as he can safely get. He is wearing several thick animal hides draped over his body, but he is still shivering. The Ice Age is ruthless. The environment has become so extreme that a single blanket draped over your shoulders is no longer enough to survive. The freezing wind just violently blows right up underneath the open bottom of the hide. You need the fur to wrap entirely around your arms and your legs. You need the hide to perfectly match the shape of your body, trapping a tight, impenetrable layer of hot air right against your skin. Elian actively knows this. He knows he needs to attach smaller pieces of leather together permanently to make tubes for his arms and legs. He can't just tie them with clumsy bark ropes anymore. The cold air still rushes right through the gaps between the ties. He needs a tight, continuously sealed seam. He needs to bind the leather together so securely that the wind cannot find a way in. Chapter 9. The Strong String. Elian looks at a pile of leftover hunting scraps sitting near the edge of the fire pit. He actively digs through the pile and picks up a long, thick piece of animal sinew, the tough tendon from a reindeer's leg. He rolls the raw tendon between his hands, stretching it out and working it until it separates into tough, thin fibers. It is incredibly strong, practically acting like a modern nylon cord. You cannot snap it with your bare hands, and it won't rot easily in the damp. It is the absolute perfect string for binding leather, but having strong string is totally useless if you can't actually push it through the thick leather hides. He takes the soft, flexible sinew and tries to just poke it directly through the heavy, tough deer hide. The sinew just bends, crumples, and slides off the tough skin. He can't force it through. He realizes he needs a tool. He needs something hard and sharp to puncture the leather, but more importantly, he needs that tool to actively pull the soft string through the hole it just made. He needs to invent a delivery system for the string. Chapter 10. Grinding the Bone. Elian searches through the scrap pile again, tossing aside useless pieces of flint. He finds a tiny, dense splinter of a shattered reindeer bone. It is barely thicker than a twig, but the bone matrix is incredibly hard and won't shatter easily under pressure. He grabs a flat, rough piece of sandstone from the cave floor. He presses the tiny bone splinter against the stone and actively begins to rub it back and forth. This is where the real work happens. It's not a sudden flash of magical genius, but hours of incredibly slow, grueling, physical repetition. He grinds the bone against the rough stone, slowly and purposefully shaping it. He rubs it for hours until one end of the bone splinter is as sharp as a thorn. He now has a basic ore. He can successfully poke a hole in the thick leather, but poking a hole isn't enough to solve his problem. If he pokes a hole with the sharp bone, pulls the bone out, and then tries to push the soft string through the hole with his thick fingers, the string just frays against the rough leather and jams. He needs the bone to drag the string through the leather at the exact same time it makes the hole. He has to attach the string to the bone itself. Chapter 11. The Tiniest Drill Dot. This is the absolute hardest, most frustrating part of the entire evolutionary process. He has a sharp bone needle, but a needle is completely useless if it cannot pull the string behind it. He actively has to make a hole in the back of the tiny piece of bone. He has to invent the eye of the needle. Elian digs through his tools and finds a tiny, incredibly sharp flake of flint rock. He holds the tiny bone splinter incredibly steady against his knee, taking a deep breath to calm his hands. He places the sharp, microscopic tip of the flint directly against the flat back of the bone splinter, and he actively begins to twist. He presses down hard, twisting the sharp rock back and forth, drilling a microscopic hole directly into the hard bone matrix. He works for hours in the dim light. The stakes are high. If he presses too hard or twists at the wrong angle, the delicate bone will snap in half, and he will have to start the grinding process all over again. His fingers cramped violently, his eyes strained, trying to focus in the flickering, unsteady firelight. Finally, after hours of agonizingly slow twisting, he feels the sharp tip of the flint punch through the other side of the bone. He stops immediately. He holds the tiny, sharp piece of bone up to the firelight. He smiles. He can see the flickering orange flames perfectly through the tiny, perfectly round hole drilled in the back of the bone. He did it. He invented the needle. Chapter 12, Getting Our Hands Back. Elian doesn't wait for morning. The blizzard is howling outside, but he gets to work immediately. He takes his heavy, soft leather blanket and actively cuts it into smaller, manageable pieces using a sharp stone knife. He takes the piece designed to cover his chest and the piece designed to wrap around his arm. He holds the two edges of the heavy leather tightly together with his left hand. With his right, he threads the tough animal sinew through the tiny eye of the bone needle. He pushes the sharp bone tip straight through the two layers of thick leather. He pulls it out the other side, and the strong sinew string follows right behind it. Dragged seamlessly through the hole, he loops it over and pushes the needle through again. Over and over, he pulls the string tight, locking the pieces together. He is sewing. He actively connects the sleeve perfectly to the chest piece. The seam is incredibly tight, completely sealing out the cold air. For the rest of the night, while the blizzard rages outside the cave, Elian, he makes fitted sleeves. He makes tight pants. He makes enclosed boots. When the sun finally comes up, the blizzard has stopped. The world outside the cave is a blinding, frozen white wasteland. Elian walks out of the cave. He isn't holding a blanket shut with one hand anymore. He isn't shivering as the wind blows up underneath his hide. He is completely enclosed in a perfectly fitted, permanently sealed suit of thick leather and fur. The freezing wind hits him, and it simply stops at the leather. He is totally warm. He reaches down with both of his hands, grabs a massive, heavy piece of firewood, and lifts it up easily. He has full, unrestricted use of his body in the middle of the Ice Age. He has actively beaten the cold. Thanks to hours of frustrating work and a tiny, sharp piece of bone, humanity finally got its hands back, and we could finally walk out into the snow.